Good evening and welcome to the final FanJam show of the season. My name is Jack Huxley from our Birmingham, England studios. I'm joined by the ever-glorious Colin Gordon, going for the Little Red Riding Hood look this evening. From our London studios, and Kurt Dale from... Are you in Kingston, Kurt?
No, Ocherius.
Ocherius, okay.
Rivers.
Okay.
Yep.
Say that again, Colin.
Meaning 8 rivers.
8 rivers. And are there 8 rivers?
Yes.
Oh, there you go.
It's also called the Garden Parish.
Okay. There we go. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing quite well. I'm playing netball. I'm just coming from my workout session, trying to be ready for our tournament next month. So I just had a session and I ran straight home and in the studios.
Perfect. Thank you. Colin?
I'm a little bit sad because the South African equivalent, which was destined for the 14th to the 18th of September, has been cancelled.
Oh, has it? For the men's? Oh, I saw that was happening, and there was quite a few kind of new nations getting involved, which I was quite excited about.
I think they said there was a lack of umpires for that, but yeah, I don't want to get stuck into that. What my
it's often difficult with visa situation stuff, isn't it? I know we found that at World Mail in America. We had a Kenyan team due to come over a couple of years ago who couldn't make it because of visa issues. And
well, it wasn't visa issues. Is the issue? Most of the umpires were to come from the African region, which is not very far to travel. But I think it was down to availability. And for me, if you're going to plan a tournament of such magnitude, you should have plan 1 and then plan 2 and then plan 3. And I don't. They had 2 or 3 ready, because for me, if there were the umpires that you wanted didn't come, then they should have gone for the second tier umpires, and to ensure that this tournament went ahead.
Yeah, I see.
And I'm very sad about that.
Yeah, understandable. Well, hopefully it'll be rearranged soon and we'll be able to feast on some male netball. And if not, then we have World Mail in October, which we'll be able to enjoy. So this week it will be a short show, but we are going to do a quick wrap of the Suncorp Super Netball Grand Final, and then a bit of a season review, which we're all going to take part in. So firstly, to the Grand Final. The Giants against the New South Wales Swifts. Swifts coming out victorious 63-57, I think it was in the end. 63
59. It's a 4-point.
59. Okay. Oh, of course, they got a super shot right at the end of the year. Kurt, did you watch it? I'm assuming is a silly question. How did you find it? What were your thoughts? Yes, tell us all.
So it was what I expected it to be. In all honesty, I thought throughout the season, with consistency and just the style and the structure that they were playing, I thought the Swift and the Fever would have made it to the grand finals. The Fever had a hiccup and they didn't make it, but I know it was I saw that they were coming up against the Giants, who I would say beat them twice, because that hell ball call on Joe Hart, he was hell, but that if she had just scored that, they would have won. They'd have beaten Fever twice. So they had the edge on Fever. So it was always going to be a difficult game for Fever. So once I saw that they were facing Giants, I was like, all right, so Giants, Swifts for me, they play a brand of netball that's basic, very very basic. So it's a very hard team to like because they don't do the fancy stuff. They just do the basics so well, and they play the ball around 17, 18 passes sometime before it goes. So you're like, oh, I don't like this team. They play the ball around too much. They're so boring to watch. But that's the brand that Brownie wants them to play, and it gets the job done. So it was all that type of possession netball was always going to be a challenge for Giants because Giants defensively, with the exception of Amy Parmenter, they don't have natural ball winners. They more have grinders. So and to beat Swifts, you need to be getting balls off them. In particularly Sam Wallace, you need to slow her down, and it's difficult for someone like Sam Pullman to get balls off Sam Wallace. So it was always going to be a difficult job for them. As I said, the Swifts, they came out, and from the start, you could see their intent. I think it was like 6-1 to start. Like 6-1 to start, and that's their experience being 2019 premiers showed, and they just went for it from the start, and they just left Giants on the back foot, and they couldn't recover.
Colin, what say you?
I think the key battle for me was to take out Dwyer. If you take Dwyer out and leave all the work to Joe will crumble, and it worked a treat. Once the finalists were announced, for me there was only one winner, and it was Swifts. And it's so funny that the coach of Swifts was an apprentice under Julie Fitzgerald. So it was an apprentice versus the master, really. And the master came out, the apprentice came out on top. So yeah, it was for me. The as Kurt did say, the brand of netball was different. It's different, but they had a clear goal, which was to get out of the first 5 minutes, get out to a fast start, and let Giants do the chasing. And once Giants start to chase, then that's when the errors would come in. But the key for me was taking out Sophie Dwyer, and Maddie Turner did a superb job on doing that. And then they didn't have any answer whatsoever for Sam Wallace. I mean, on my Facebook status, I wrote, if Sam Wallace didn't get the man of the match, the koala bear gets it.
I mean, Colin, I tend to disagree. a little bit with you with the Joe crumbled and
But she didn't crumble, but she missed a lot of shots, and that's what they wanted.
Taking out Sophie Dwyer, where it went wrong for Giants, and Giants play the brand of netball where they live or die by the super shot. And this week they just didn't survive. And Sophie Dwyer, when you look at her stats, she actually had her average amount of shot, her season average. She had attempts, she had center pass received, she had a couple feeds, which is around her season average. Only difference in the match is that she missed a few of those super shots. So too Joe Hart, they weren't sinking those super shots, because if you look at this, I think she had like 5 from 10. So she was getting the ball. So I wouldn't say that they took her out of the game. She was getting the ball. It's just that the final shot. And that's the pressure being a young player in your first grand final. I mean, your first season as a starter. That's the pressure that comes with it. And you have to be mentally strong. And sometimes I forget about the mental side of sports. And I mean,
I don't think this was down to a mental thing at all, because Sophie Dwyer, unlike, say, Ronnie Samison, has been performing consistently well throughout the season. Ronnie had one really good game against the Fire. She came and she shot the lights out. What happened the week that preceded? She went down. And the week that followed, Ronnie was missing in action. So, but Sophie Dwyer has consistently delivered for the entire season.
And it could be that finals was her breaking point. So Ronnie might break like after one game, but it might take Sophie a longer time, because they have such a balanced team.
Maddie Turner, the goal defense, the kudos here. She worked her derriere off in nullifying her drives into the circle, because she's got some really nice moves, and those moves were not seen on that day because they studied them, and then what they did, they made Joe did most of the work. And once you get Joe doing most of the work, this is where the errors will come in, whether from Joe or from the center court, but it will come. And it did come. And then where was the wing attack? Maddie Hay. I mean, was she as well? Where was she?
Yeah, she was a bit shaky. She certainly built into the game because, again, another young player in her first grand final, her first full season being a starter. And that's why I'm saying it comes down to, I would more look at it as the pressure moment for those young players because, as I said, it's their first full season, first grand finals. And if you look at Maddie Turner, you mentioned her. If you look at her season stats, she's been racking up the most speeds for the league, and she's up in the top 3 for goal assists as well. And she's nowhere on the turnover stats sheet. She started that game with about 3 or 4 consecutive turnovers, which is unlikely, unusual. So for me, it's just probably the pressure at the moment got to those young players, and they crumbled. As I said, persons are saying the goal defense shut down Sophie, but I'm saying she had 10 super shot attempts. She had 16 regular shot goals. And if you look at her average, she's not the playmaker in their attacking end. She's just a shooter, really. She plays goal attack, but she's just a shooter. So for me, I don't see where she was shut down. Her shots definitely were affected. 5 from 10, 50% below her average. But yeah, other than that, I just think the pressure at the moment got to the Giants players.
And then look at the other end of the court. I mean, Pullman and Houseby were Wallace and Houseby. They were at the drive-through at Burger King because they were
having it their own way.
Yeah.
Yeah, you certainly saw evidence of the connection between those two, didn't you, in the final?
Yeah.
Wallace said, you know what, I'm going to make my mark here. I want my not only am I going to win this for you, but I'm also going to cement my contract for the next year. And she did
just
that.
Wasn't phased, was she, by anything?
No.
She wasn't phased by anything.
Oh, God, no. I mean, she made some Pullman look like an petit pois.
And she always comes good against the Giants for some reason or the other. I don't know. I mean, she's an awesome player. Not taking it away from her, but yeah. Against the Giants, she always find a little extra. But as Colin said, contracts were on the line because we saw Sophie Garbin, who is an Australian. She has come on in some games and she has really hold her hand up saying, hey, I'm here and if you need me. So Sam Wallace being an import more so, she needs to ensure that she keeps performing and keep holding her hand up as well to ensure that she...
All the imports have to perform.
Yeah, but Colin, did you notice that a number of the teams, the imports were the best players for the teams?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. And what this says here is that the best players in the world are not normally Australian. Yeah, and it used to be that way, and it's not anymore. The Australians are far, if you look at the stats sheet, the Australians are far down on the stat sheet. Yeah. It's almost sometimes embarrassing when you look at the amount of goals scored. Let's say Sam Wallace, where she ended up on the shooting table. I mean, it was embarrassing for the Australians to look at that because she's not only a holding shooter, she's a girl that can move, she can do the tricks, she can do the party stuff, and then she can put up the long bomb. Jesus, Mary, and the wee donkey. I mean, what else from her?
Yeah, it's interesting you say that because for you, Kurt, obviously as a Jamaican, a proud Jamaican, there was 3 Jamaicans in the team of the year this year. Was there Janelle, Shamira, and Jodie? Were they all in there?
Yes, they were all in there.
So how does that? I guess that excites you for the future for the Sunshine Girls.
It does. And if you look back at the last time we played what's the name, World Cup 2019, we only had, I mean, Jodie was down there at the time, so we had like Well, Janil and Romele can count them as one, being that they both play go shoot, and he has Shamira, KD, another one position, and Jody was down there. So we had 3 position covered. Now we have more girls down there. So going into the next cycle, they are being exposed to that. Jody now being in her second season, she would have settled a lot more. If you saw in her games this year, she could hold her intensity for much longer. So you have her coming in now as a full time in that environment, training full time along with Shamira and Janil and the rest of the girls. Latanya down there training full time now, so which might be a starting 7 on the line with Jody and Shamira. So we have that depth now across the court. So it should be interesting going to the next cycle to see how the Jamaican girls perform.
Well,
Do you think?
for me, it's clear. Yeah, and I'm going to still say this again, and woe to the Jamaicans outside who don't want to hear it, but it's going to be said anyway. The Commonwealth Games are next year. If Jamaica is not in the final, there should be a broom that sweeps not only the management, but it sweeps also the players out. Because Jamaica must win. They must win with this group of players that they've got. It's like like I'd say a Man United with under. You remember when Ferguson had the young, I forgot what they called them at the time, with
The
Beckham.
class of '92.
Yeah, and what's the ginger one called?
Paul Scholes.
Paul Scholes and all of those guys and stuff. And what he did, he went on and he won the league and he won the European stuff. Yep, because they were the hot stuff at the time. Now Jamaica's got the same.
Kurt, do you worry about the mid-court lacking slightly? Because obviously the big names down in Australia from a Jamaican point of view are all kind of shooters and defenders. I know Jody plays a bit of wing defence, but do you worry about the mid-court maybe not being at the same level as the rest of the squad?
All right, so a lot of persons worry about the mid-court, but I don't worry about the mid-court for a number of reasons. So I don't worry about the mid-court because I know them personally. I've played with and against them, and I know the talent that they are, right? Very talented girls. 2, I don't worry about them because they're all here in Jamaica and they're able to train together 365 days of the year if they choose to. So they can build on those chemistry and those combinations that should take them out. And 3, you have a big target like Janil in the back. I mean, the midcourt doesn't need to be perfect. They just need to be fit and be able to pass a lob. I mean, you don't need to be able to do anything fancy. So I'm not worried about them. I just hope that they're being prepared properly, and I trust that the coach and the new coach is in now. She's very enthusiastic and she wants them to do well. And she's there with them every day. I see them on Instagram. So I'm hoping that they're just putting in the work that is necessary. Because they might be training but not doing the right stuff. I just hope that they're doing the work that is necessary to get them to that point. Because at the end of the day, as I said on the show previously, you don't need the A-class facilities to train to get to the point. You don't need, the match play might be important, but other than that, I mean, yeah, they can get there.
Well, what I worry about as a player, coach, whatever, is the analysis work that is being done. And remember, analysis now is not just privy to Australia and New Zealand or England. It's now in the hands of every Jack Mandora. You know what I mean? So people are now studying sports code, which is the analysis facilities that is used to analyze players, is now available to around the world. And,
it is.
And people are using it for what it is intended for. And they're studying, and that's the issue that I have. So we can, say, so Jamaica can have a good attack. Yeah, the attack, fine. How about the people who are watching them? Okay, let me use for an example. When England played them in the World Cup, if you notice what they did, they sort of doubled up on Shamira, on what's her name? Janelle? Yes. And forced Jamaica to play the ball around extra. That was where it broke down, because then people like Jiva, who reads that sort of play, anything across the circle, it's like Enid Blyton for her. She reads it so well, and she just goes out and with grace, panache, and she snuffles it. And those are the little nuggets that we're looking for. And then also, from a defensive point of view, you cannot depend on the Jodians and on the Shamiras, on the Latanias to do the work. There must be a system, a defending system. So when Janelle misses a shot, God forbid if she does, or the umpire calls stepping, or the umpire calls whatever it is.
Whatever it is.
Yeah. What do we do next? What is our defensive setup?
Or transition, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because it has to start from the attack.
When you look at New Zealand on the no-lead tour, the moment Maya misses a shot or a call is made in that circle, immediately we can see, French again, immediately you could see them in that zone of marking style, pushing you up, pushing you wide, sucking the life out of you. So those are the things that I worry about. Is Jamaica capable of doing that?
Well, it comes back.
From not only from the attacking side, but also from the defending side. And when South Africa beated them, South Africa did both very well.
It comes back to what you were saying at the start, Colin, about the tournament. You need to have a plan 1, a plan 2, a plan 3. It can't just be, Kurt makes a very good point that with Janelle, 8 times out of 10, the big lob will work. But when that gets nullified, what is the backup?
Jack, I mean, hold on. Before I comment on that point, I don't want the viewers, Jack, to feel left out. So Matthew Neal, we see that you're here. She thinks that the pressure got to Sophie Dwyer. Blackwood Alexander, he's saying the Jamaica midcourt has always fall short because they don't get enough international exposure. Like the shoot and the defense. He's also saying that Jamaica need to do analyst work. Anya is saying, and I was actually getting to this point, when they double foul, she can still get it. And Richard is saying, all right, we get to Richard in a little bit because it's very long. But yes, coming back to you, Colin, that's what I was going to say, what Anya said. You said England forced them to play the ball around a little bit more because they sit back on Janelle. The truth is Janelle can get it even when the double is on her. So it's just about having a plan and don't play into the hands of the opponent. So they are forcing you to do something that you don't want to do because some of the time they're just hovering in the space, trying to not necessarily sitting on Janelle, but just hovering the space to let it seize as if it's not open. Show the ball, give her just the same. Stop worrying about that because she's going to catch it. She's good enough to catch it even with 3 defenders on her. Don't change your game style and play into the hands of the opponent. And that's what South Africa did to them. Forced them into a style of play that they weren't comfortable. And it got to them. So, I mean, Jamaica just need to go in with a game plan. And it has to be a smart game plan. And they just need to stick with it. And they should be fine. Because, as I said, the players are incredible. Alexander mentioned that the midcourt need international exposure. This midcourt has been playing for Jamaica since 2013. It's 2021 now. I don't think exposure is a problem. I think it's a game plan that they need to get sorted.
Richard is saying that essentially that the administration needs to be accountable. So I think this comes back to your comment, Colin, where you said that if they don't reach the final, then you should sweep out the players and the coaches. He's saying the administration should be more accountable, perhaps, with things such as analysis that you mentioned, team selection, coach selection, etc. He's also said that he was forced to agree with you, Colin, so I'm not quite sure what he means by that.
I remember I had a gun to his head.
You what, sorry?
I had a gun to his head.
Well, yes, he does agree with you nonetheless. Let's do some end of season awards, reflections, etc. if you could pick one, obviously we've already touched on Sam Wallace, who got the MVP. We mentioned Sophie Dwyer. Maybe one player each outside of them who really impressed you this season, who you thought, was consistently performing at a top level. Kurt, we'll come to you first.
Oh. All right. So one player that really stood out for me.
It's worth saying for the viewers, this isn't pre-prepared. I've put them on the spot here. Colin, do you have anyone?
No, Kurt is going first. Let Kurt go.
All right, so I'm ready. So I think the player who stood out for me the most is Maddie Hay from Giants, the wing attack. She was a newcomer. She's a wing defense turned wing attack, and she was absolutely dominant throughout that midcourt. Unlucky in my eyes to not have gotten a Diamonds call up. She leads almost all the midcourt stats, and she also does a lot of defensive work. She's up there in the defensive stats as well. The number one defensive midcourt in the league easily. So for me, she was the surprise package, and she stood out the most to me.
Nice one, thank you. Colin?
Well, I'm going to go totally different. Although this person faded in the last 3 games, the most crucial games, they faded. But I'm going to go with Sunday Ariang. And I tell you why, because she came from literally nowhere and took that position of the goal defense, the English international. She took that position off her and made it her own, and kept fever in the season, because remember they were minus 12 points, which is 3 games. Kept them in. They went 5 without losing, I think, first, and she was instrumental in that, in those games. So in the last 3 games, I think it was down to fatigue, and she was just really tired because she played every minute of every game. But she has been a standout for me.
Yeah, and we saw real growth from her role in the team, hadn't we?
Absolutely.
In terms of at the start of the year, she was coming on for a few minutes per quarter, and then as it came on, it built up and built up and built up. Could I ask as well, any viewers, could you please comment with your players that have really impressed you this season? We want to hear from you, and we'll happily discuss any players interest. I'm sure some people are maybe screaming at their televisions at the moment with who they would have had as their player. Whilst we wait for comments to come through on that, who would be your biggest surprise package this year? So a player who maybe you hadn't heard of before or didn't expect to reach the levels they did, and who you think kind of took the league by storm a bit.
Well, I would like to see Sophie Dwyer, being integrated into the Australian team, because I think she has earned that position. She has been, she faded in the final, that's fine. But she, again, has been, when I saw them announced her as the player, as the person taking the position of Austin, Sophie who? And after the first game, I had to check myself before I wrecked myself again, because this kid was just, she just went all out, and it never stopped. It just never, ever stopped. And she looked like she's been playing there for years.
Yep.
And her confidence to just come and bang that shot day in, day out in an international competition with those defenders bearing down on you like a human backpack. It's not easy. And she's done that with panache. And I would love to see her in if Norma Plummer for me was the coach, that she would be in the starting 7 of the Australian team. Norma Plummer has a way of making the ordinary look extraordinary.
Yeah, and I think it's important, like Kurt said, we often forget about the mental side of sport, but actually for her coming into the season, they had the exciting young Ciara Austin, next big thing in Australia. They had Joe Harton, who's the captain, England international for, several years. She would have expected to be playing very much a backup role. And, she didn't. It was a very kind of baptism of fire in a way. As soon as Ciara went down in that first game, it was like, right, girl, like, you're in. And, Judy Fitzgerald, we saw even in the final, was very reluctant to change things. Like there wasn't many changes happening in that shooting circle. She was playing whenever she was available. So you'll have seen as well our post there. If you'd like to join our live feed to discuss your players or your reflections, then please do let us know, and we will we'll make that happen for you. Kurt, do you have a surprise package? Oh, sorry, Kurt's got a visitor.
I as I said, the surprise package for me was I saw a glimpse of Sophie Dwyer in the preseason, because I don't know, Julie probably she's psychic and she saw that it was coming, and then so Joe Harden and Sophie Dwyer played a lot through preseason, and then Ciara Austin went away with the Diamonds as well, so they were kind of forced into playing that combination as well. So she got a good build up, a lot of court time. So I saw her in the preseason game. So, and she stood out with her shooting. So she wasn't a surprise for me. But Maddie Hay again, I mean, the work that she was able to do this season was unmatched by any wing attack in the league. She was easily the informed wing attack in the league. So I can't go past her.
Nice. Seen a few comments coming through saying Maddie Hay and Jodie, I presume Jodie Ann Ward. Obviously, we don't know what will happen in the off season. Who'll move where? Sorry, Kurt. What did you say?
Katie Handy Haney as well.
Oh, sorry, I didn't say that one. Yeah, Katie as well. And I think Katie, Shimona Nelson as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, this isn't a Jamaican bias. These are all people that have really stepped up this season and reached a new level. Obviously we don't know what will happen in the off season with coach movements, player movements, etc. But if right now you had to predict who was going to be lifting that trophy this time next year, who would you go for, Colin?
Well, you could get it further than Swifts, but I assume a lot of the teams will be making a lot of changes, and it depends on where those changes come. My suspicion is that Vixens, well, of course, they're going to get Liz Watson back. She's back. She's almost there now. She will be back for that tournament. But if they get a big shooter, and there's a little bit of something in me that tells me that Donald Williams may be heading to Melbourne, nobody said this. Nobody has said
Kurt's shaking his head.
I don't think so.
Nobody has said this, but I think a little bit of negotiation has been going behind door, and I think
Colin's got his crystal ball out again.
And if Donald Williams goes to
Vixens,
to the Vixens, it's going to be murder. It's going to be murder.
See Wender out of goal attack a lot more if that happens.
Yes.
And where do you think that would put Vixens in the table if that were to happen, Colin?
Right up in there, because although, let's look at it, although Vixens they came away with the bacon bone, they weren't actually trampled on.
Yeah.
They still put up some really good performances. They weren't trampled on. Simone wasn't going to allow them to be trampled on and stuff. And they know that this season would be very difficult for them. They knew that. But let me tell you something. Once they sign a big shooter, and I would like them to get either Donnell Williams or I'd like them to get Lucy Austin. Lucy Austin from Adelaide Thunderbirds. She was one of the players that was signed with Thunderbirds, but she's from the ANL. And I think she played on the winning ANL team as well. Right. And I would love to see either her or Wallam back back there.
Okay.
And then
We've
the new team, we don't know what's going to happen with that. Who's going to go there?
yeah, that's meant to be this season, isn't it?
Yes,
Or next season?
Go there. Are they going to keep it total Australian?
Mm-hmm.
Or we're going to bring in some international to get it running, and then.
Yeah, that's a good point. It will definitely change things up.
Yeah.
Arton has come through with a potentially controversial question, but I'm sure nothing you'll be worried about answering, Colin. Which player did you expect to deliver but went a bit lukewarm this season? I imagine you've got a whole list.
There is a few. There is quite a few. Jenner was one of them.
Who was?
Kim Jenner.
Kim Jenner. I thought you said Janelle at one point. I was like, sorry. Kim Jenner, okay.
Yeah, sort of went. And I think maybe because she lost her wingman as well. So she lost Hinchcliffe. So, so that could be the reason. Kumwanda was a little quiet, but Kumwanda needs people around her. She needs, to make Kumwanda.
Yeah, I mean, there was times when she was single-handedly carrying that team.
Absolutely. So that as well. From a team that, for me, as a team that performed well, in my opinion, was actually Thunderbirds. As a very young unit, they've improved. They've got, Gorgeous Horgeous. They've got Nankivell. They've got some really young players.
Mm-hmm.
And they've actually done very well, because let's not forget, Paul Gita's only 26 years old.
Is she? Okay. Yeah, Latonya's there as well, isn't she?
And Latanya is there, who's a young kid. Shamira, again, another. Shamira is not old. She's a young kid as well. So the whole unit is young. So I thought, remember, they've taken matches that they had no right winning.
Yeah, and they were close in a few that they lost as well.
Absolutely.
There was a few they lost by, 2 or 3.
So it's been an interesting season.
Yeah, and I think it's important to recognise actually the job that's been done by Suncorp Super Netball just to make the season happen. Because, Australia have been very tight with their COVID restrictions where other nations haven't. And there's been lots of times where there's just been like snap lockdowns or, last minute decisions made that are completely out of the league's control. And so actually a lot of the time, even just to get 2 teams on court has actually been a real achievement from the league. And so I think the credit goes to the coaches and to the players and officials for having to go through the times of isolation and everything else just to make the matches possible for us, the viewers, the fans at home. But yeah, you're right. It has then caused on court some games that are just completely mental and, lots of results that have maybe surprised us.
Well, let's be thankful that they gave us they gave the world a product to look at, because let's be fair, without the Suncorp, where there's nothing really to watch apart from New Zealand and VSL. So, thank God that they did put out a product for us. Thank the umpires for the job that they did, however controversial it may be. They did a really good job. Let's thank the coaches, like Barony. She's got 4 boys, a husband, and she had to, rearrange. She had to leave at some point. She had to leave them. At some point, she had to stay behind, and so that was very difficult for her too. And let's not forget the people who made the Suncorp, who gave it life throughout the world. Sue Gordian, Kath Cox, Laura Geis, you know, those people who entertain. I mean, the entertainment from them,
Yeah,
it was worth the price of admission alone. It was,
for sure.
and we have to thank these people because without them, Suncore, or however good it is actually a bit of a shit show.
Did you miss me?
Yeah,
It would be
yeah.
so. I don't mean in terms of skill set.
No,
I mean,
but yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, it brings it all together, doesn't it?
absolutely. We were just thanking people for their work. We just said Stu Gordian, Liz, Kat Cox, Liz, and Laura Geitz.
Yeah, the
Someone's
commentator.
just. Sorry, Kurt. Go on.
Yeah, I mean, netball is not the same without them, really. You take a listen to the Vitality Super League and the commentary there. They try. Kudos to them. We appreciate them nevertheless. But when you compare it to the Suncorp games, I mean, sometimes I'm caught up listening to Sue and Kat getting into it and not focusing on the game. So, I mean, they're good for the sport. I really appreciate them being commentators. And we don't always agree with what they say, but they keep it fun and entertaining for us. So kudos to them. Big up yourself, Sue, Kat, Gaixi, Bianca, Nat. Well, we want to see Nat playing for Magpies next season, but yeah, all of them, kudos.
For sure. We just had a comment of Carla Pretorius. I'd imagine that was maybe more for the lukewarm players who disappointed slightly.
I think people are finding her out now. People are working her out.
Yeah.
So, yeah, people know what to do against Carla Pretorius. Yeah.
And
So
that happens as netballers. That happens. You go there. I mean, this is the best league in the world, and you said, Colin, the technology is available now, so they can study a player so easy. That's why it's important for netballers, international netballers, and coaches alike to keep evolving the way how they play, the way how the coaches coach, ensure that you know, your game keep improving, and it's not easy for someone to study. I don't think it's our age. Whoever is asking, because she's still running and performing.
She's not old. She's not an old player.
Right.
I'm just looking how old she is now.
I think she's about 30 now, but her athletic ability is still there. It's just, I mean, the usual come through, and when with players stopping on the ball, that she's known for the sneaky come through intercepts. Players are aware that she's coming, so they're going into the ball and putting their bodies in the ball. So it's not as easy as it used to be. But she's still out there doing her thing. I mean, yep. Shamira is being analyzed as well. I mean, she had a quiet season to start. She changed up some stuff in her game, and she improved as the season went on. And I mean, if you look at Shamira in 2019 to Shamira this year, in her first season, she was picking the balls from behind players constantly. That's how she got most of her balls. She was picking the ball over the head and the usual runouts. But now you see she's winning ball a lot of different ways now. She's coming around the body. She's going hunting, and you don't see the pick as much. So they're working out one side of her game, but she's improving on another side. So
and kudos to the coach for that.
And kudos to the coach for that. And if you look at her against Cara Conan, that speaks a lot about Shamira and what the coach has done to improve her game, because she's usually one to just mark the high ball, and that's where her strength used to be, the high ball, and she used to struggle against movers. But if you look at her playing against Cara Conan this year compared to previous year, she did a good job at slowing down the ball and covering Cara Conan's moves. So she's evolving. So they're working out one side of her game, but she's improving somewhere else. So she's relevant still.
But I think that's an important point with analysis, is that it does go both ways. So, for example, we're saying that Carla's been worked out. It could be that, you know, Carla's career just sort of steadily declines, or it could be that next season, exactly as Simone says there, Carla's then analysing her opponents, and next season she comes out with it. I mean, we saw it this season because we had Shamira on the show before the first match of the season against Giants. and she was talking about some of the things she had analysed in Joe's game about going out for the ball and then drawing back in and stuff like that. And you know, I definitely saw it when they then played, that some of the things she talked about worked really well. Some of them didn't work as well, but that's the beauty of analysis. She can go back, she can watch it, she can reflect, and then next time she plays, she'll be able to try some of the stuff again. But obviously also then knowing that Joe will have watched that back as well, and so will be avoiding making the same mistakes. And that's where, you know, the analysis sides brings a whole new mental side to the game, because it's a challenge all the time. Everyone's trying to get the better of one another.
And then, Jack, someone is asking if Carla is not analyzing her opponents. So the thing is, as a goal defense, and she has so much space to cover as a goal defense compared to a goalkeeper. So her job might be slightly different. So you notice goal defense, with the exception of Carla and Jody and the other goal defense in the league, they don't get as much intercepts. They tend to build pressure, and because I mean the rest of goal defense are predominantly Australian, so their role is to usually build pressure. So as Carla, if you zoom in on Carla, the work she's doing on our goal attacks, she's marking them close man on man. So when she realized she can't win the intercept, the flying intercept that she usually does, then she start marking her man to man, forcing them sometimes into turnovers or just denying them from getting the ball. And that's a change up for her game. So she might not get the stats all the time, but then she's still being effective.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think, you know, you don't become a bad player overnight, do you? So, you know, this is a woman who was player of the tournament in 2019 at the World Cup. Like, she's not going to have just suddenly lost it. And I think we have to remember as well that lockdown has affected all players differently. And I think, especially for some of the import players, to be, you know, away from home and then having to be locked in a hotel room for weeks, months on end is, you know, it's very difficult, and it will take a toll on players. So we might. We're going to wrap up in a couple of minutes. Colin, if you could, in 30 seconds to a minute, give us your final thoughts on the season. What have been the highlights, and what are you most looking forward to for next year?
It's been worth it getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning every weekend. The bags under my eye doesn't say so, though. But it's been, well, I've enjoyed every minute of this season, especially when we had the ANZ running alongside the Suncorp. So that was just netball, elite netball, then back
and the Super League at the same time as well.
Super League at the same time. So it was just constant for us, and that was for me just, you know, especially with the times that we're living in, how difficult it is. So we have to give just to the VSL for what the job that they've done. The Vitality Super League, excellent work that they've done. We also have to say to the NZ and the work that they've done as well. And of course, HCF and Suncorp, the work that they've done there to keep the leagues going. And I would just like to say kudos to all the fans around the world who got up, just like me, just like many others, myself, for sport, and many others who got up in the morning. Nordy as well, Samuels, who's always on download. Yep. You know, got up at this time at the early morning to watch these games and to analyze and put things on Facebook. And it's been incredible. And I just can't wait to do it again. Same time next year with all three leagues. And thank you guys as well for giving us the platform to be able to discuss this openly and freely without let or hindrance. So,
absolutely. Thank you, Colin. Kurt, do you have anything to add to that?
Oh, so first I just want to thank everyone who was involved in planning the leagues. We really, really appreciate them. For me personally, it was overwhelming at one time. So many leagues trying to keep up. I mean, sometimes usually I would stagger them a bit and watch some now and some later, and then throughout the week. But then I have to be on point to come and hear guys to be able to summarize and analyze the games for you guys. So I had to be on point each week, watching all these games, and I mean it's the bags are under my eyes too, Colin. And but I absolutely enjoy doing it, and I wouldn't trade it for anything else. Thank you guys for coming out. We have had some faithful viewers week in, week out who have been here, and I mean, we're doing this for you. We want to keep you updated. We want to keep um, you informed, and we want to help you enjoy netball as we continue to share netball across the world. And next year is going to be a big year with the Commonwealth Games, so plenty more to come. And I mean, we'll be back. We'll be back. Admin, you can help me out here in the comments. We'll be back.
In September, the internationals.
Yeah, we'll be back. Yes, to take you through the Olympic series coming in October, and then we'll be back to take you through the international series with Jamaica hosting at some games, New Zealand hosting some games, Australia hosting some international games. So it might not be every weekend, but we'll be here every now and then just to keep you updated.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, just to say, keep an eye on the socials for that one, Facebook, Instagram, etc. And so, I guess all that leaves me to say is thank you. Thank you especially to you two, Colin and Kurt. I feel like you've been the most faithful servants of the FanJam talk show this season. At times hosting shows on your own.
You mean, are we always here?
Yes, you are. Ever reliable. And so, we thank you guys for that. And like Kurt says, without the viewers, this would just be us talking to each other, which I'm sure we'd all enjoy, but it wouldn't be the same.
Right? Definitely.
Without all of our viewers. And so, hopefully next year, the world will be in a bit of a better place, but the netball, we hope, still continues to be just as good, if not better. With the Super League, the ANZ, the Suncorp, International Series, and then the Commonwealth Games, which with the nations that take part is essentially just a second World Cup every 4 years, isn't it? So, and it will be in my hometown of Birmingham. So we are very lucky to have all of that. To all of you at home, we thank you, and we will see you really soon. Goodbye.
Guys, if you want to go to the Commonwealth Games and you need a place to stay, he's your man. It will be in his backyard. Just call him up.
Put all the tents up.
All right, guys.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.